Good afternoon, I'm Joey Oliver from Mega Forestry and I will be detailing our site hazard assessment process for harvesting operations. The first step in the hazard assessment process is identifying hazards present on site and communicating with the landowner to ensure that all hazards are identified. We also detail some of the risks associated with specific hazards. Next, we identify the assessment of the uncontrolled risk using the likelihood and severity matrix shown on the screen. After we have identified the likelihood and severity of a risk, we then communicate with our contractors to ask them to provide their control measures to minimize risk. Engagement with contractors is a key part of producing a hazard assessment, and we provide our contractors with the list of site-specific hazards we've identified and ask them to provide their control measures to minimize risk. This is usually done verbally over the phone or through emails, where the contractor will fill in the control measures column on our hazard assessment, and then we'll discuss the control measures they wish to put in place verbally before we begin the contract. Once we have received the control measures from the contractor, we then assess the controlled risk using the same matrix as shown before. Maintaining dynamic risk assessments is one of the key parts of our role as a Forest Works manager, and to this end we always include an operator observations column on our hazard assessments. This allows operators present on site to note specific risks or observations associated with hazards we've identified as they occur. Any changes which are then made to our hazard assessment template are communicated digitally, and a printed copy is provided for the information pack on site at the next site visit. A good example of this is recently when we reissued our hazard assessments with an updated fire risk during the dry weather. Immediately, one of our haulage contractors contacted us and asked if they could add a specific control measure for haulage vehicles with an underslung exhaust. This allowed us to incorporate knowledge which we didn't have as Forest Works managers into our risk assessment process, and to ensure that a hazard we hadn't identified was controlled. At the pre-commencement meeting with the machine operators, we run through the hazards identified and the control measures which have been proposed by the harvesting contractor. We highlight the locations of specific risks on a hazardous constraints maps, which are also contained within the site information packs. We provide a copy of this information pack to the landowner or their representative to ensure that all hazards present on site have been identified and have control measures in place. Because we maintain dynamic risk assessments and our operators and contractors understand that, specific hazards can be addressed and added to our hazard assessments quickly. For example, the dry weather over the summer, where we considered that there would be a higher fire risk, and the wind throw and storm events last winter, beginning with Storm Arwen and the subsequent storms. In this case, hazards were assessed quickly, control measures were put in place, and hazard assessments were updated before the end of the week.